Part two. This will probably be shorter. It's kind of already been stated in the first one. The first one we talked about theism, deism, and the aspect of God kind of pulling back, and allowing people to run their lives how they want, including people that abuse others that have nothing to do with free will. It's a free will, the abuser, the one who victimizes another person. Why does God allow that if he's so loving? And I'll just say number two is because it's not free will if he just goes in there and stops all the evil. I mean, you say, well, is it okay to go ahead and allow a person to sin, but when it affects another, then why doesn't he step in there? But I think there's deeper reasons why it actually becomes bad, becomes actually a good thing. It can be really turned out to be a good thing. But the fact is, again, I'm going to emphasize the fact that he gave this earth to human beings. And he said it from jump, and he gave people free will to do what they want on this earth. Like he's not, now in a way he's a micromanager, and in a way he isn't. Like, it sounds crazy, but he just lets it happen. He gives it to you, and then he doesn't. Now, I believe he micromanages his people, his children. They're his children. They're in his home, so to speak. And so I love that God micromanages me. Like the littlest, tiniest thing. I mean, we're talking anything slight that's not compatible with his will. It's not cooperated with him. He's all over it. In my own life, I'm glad of that. Like, and I have blind spots, and I have brothers and sisters in my life, and people will point out stuff I didn't realize it, but basically he's using them. And he really, really, really cares, and he's very involved in my affairs. And by the way, he allows suffering. He allows different horrible things that happen to me, and I'm so glad. How about that for you? We'll get to that later. But, I'm so glad I went through the suffering and stuff that I've gone through. And he allowed it. He permitted it. Well, if he's so loving, because his love allowed it so that something could happen to me that's good. He changed my life because of certain situations and things like that. So this is where you start realizing his love actually is really very active or very passive, so that things can happen, so that God can take that and use something to build character and change character. That's a mouthful. He changes character because of suffering and all that. It depends on your reaction. You could be Job's wife, or you could be Job. Job said, "Blessed be the name of the Lord. The Lord gives, the Lord takes away." Ever hear that? Funerals say that. Blessed be the name of the Lord. That was his reaction to losing his kids and all his wealth. Stock market crashed for him personally, individually. Yep. And then Job's wife got bitter and just cursed God and died. She must have been cursing God. I hope she changed in the end. I don't know. Maybe she didn't. That's why it's not mentioned. But what's your reaction? What position do you want to take? What's your choice? What's your response? So, all right, going back to my main, I think my thing here is that God gave us free will. Remember, he said, let us make man. This is Genesis 1:26. Let us make man in our own image. And he said, and let them have dominion over. He put us in charge. That means if you're going to abuse this earth, and if you're going to abuse the animals, if you're going to abuse one another, I gave it to you. Now, if he stopped all of it, I don't quite see how that can be real free will. Okay, you start to do something wrong and he stops you. And you start to hurt somebody and he stops you. He didn't stop Cain from killing Abel. And Abel was his man, was very pleased with Abel. And yet he just let him do it. Do you think God's affected by that? Do you think God is ruthless, heartless? You have no idea. And not just in the Bible, theories. You just need to go seeking him and get close to him, rub shoulders with God for a while, and feel his pain and experience what he experiences. Again, you say, well, then why does he do it? His love produces, he's allowing stuff because his love is motivating him to do it. A love for a child, for example, causes parents to discipline their children. Anyone who allows their kids to do whatever, they don't care for them that much. whether it be spankings or, whoopings or this or that and all that. Yeah, it's very good if it's used correctly. I know corporal punishment nowadays is so, they're so against it. But anyway, I wonder why the kids are the way they are. A lot of them very self-centered brats. Oh, that's another subject. But I'm just trying to say that God allowed free will, and he gave it to us. So you do what you want with you run your life how you want to. Now, the people who come to God and say, please help me run my life, God says, okay, I will. You brought it to me, I'll do it. He doesn't want, he's not going to just stop everything that's happening. That he allows it. And it's not fair to the person. It's not like God's not being fair. He chose to give it to us. Like I keep saying it again. He chose to give us a chooser to have free will. And if he was going to stop everything, then I don't think that's freedom. I think he's, nope, you're not going to do that. Nope, you're not going to say anything to her that hurt her feelings anymore. Nope, you're not going to say that. And then and then there's horrific things. And that's where we'll get into the horrific things and what's happening there and why God is allowing. Again, he's allowing it because he gave it to us. But I keep saying it, sorry. But it gets really good. It gives really good on what God, what I'm going to say in these next videos. It may not be satisfactory to you, but I'm satisfied. And I think it's on. I think I'm onto something. And I don't have everything. By the way, in Job's case, when Job asked him over and over, why? And I mean, over and over. I actually counted out various things there. I can't remember all the questions like Job asked. I have it written down somewhere. And then the God's answers, 30 something maybe, questions to Job. Wait, questions? I thought he was supposed to give answers. God's answers were questions. Jesus did that, by the way, But I love in Job when God was silent. And see, God's sitting back, silent, listening to all their arguments, listening to them rambling on with their little petty, not petty to them, but like trying to understand God and all that. But in the book of Job, in chapter 38, God speaks. Okay, finally everyone got quiet. God always will have the last word. And he's the only one that has any wisdom. And I wish they would have just shut up in the beginning and just listened to God. Oh, speaking of listening to God, you want to find out answers, go wait before God, sit before him. Oh, Lord, there's scriptures about that. Like waiting on God, waiting on God, waiting on God. That reminds me of other passages. Psalm 73, Asaph. When he's talking about, well, why are the evil in charge? And look at them, they're prospering, and the good man, the righteous are going through bad stuff and all that. Why do good people go through bad stuff? And on and on. And then it says, and he almost lost his faith, kind of angry at God, which I don't think anyone has a right. No, hear me out. Nobody has a right to get angry with God. He's nothing to get angry with. It's not his fault. So he didn't do anything. Okay, we're back to this. We're cycling around, circular reasoning, someone might say to me. But the fact is, Asaph went to God and he says, until I went into the sanctuary, I love this in Psalm 73. He's questioning God and all that until I went into the sanctuary of God, and just prayed and waited on God. Then God spoke. He was very silent. God's very silent until you go to him and ask him to talk. He's like the greatest gentleman-like person in the universe. He's just okay. So silent. So finally they all got quiet. Then the Lord answered Job out of the whirlwind and said, wow. I love these verses coming up here. It's like, woo, when God speaks this, feel the mighty God speaking this to Job. If I was Job, I would go straight down and go in a little ball and sob. Okay. Just the fear of God, it would grip me. I'd be breathless for a little bit. Listen how bold God is. And yet he loves Job, remember. He really counted him as a perfect and upright man. He really bragged about him, righteous, and fears me and all that. Who is this that darkens counsel by words without knowledge? Oh, excuse me. Who is this that darkens counsel? God has purposes and counsels and wisdom here. I love that verse. Who is this that darkens counsel by words without knowledge? You don't know what you're talking about. And by the way, if you accuse God, has not the potter power over the clay? Romans 9. Who are you that replies against God? Do you know who you're talking about and who you're dealing with? You have fear of God in you? Whew, you think you know something. Job thought he knows something, and his friends definitely thought he knew something. And then Elihu thought he knew something. Although he never did rebuke Elihu. The chapter or two before here, the younger one who sat quietly, listened to all the older people talk, then he spoke up. Not sure that Elihu missed it that much. He says, gird up now your loins like a man. Tighten up your belt. He says, for I will demand of you, and you will answer me. Wow, I love it. He says, straighten yourself up here. I will demand of you. You're demanding of me for answers? All right, you want answers? Yes, we deserve answers. You can't handle the truth. For you who know that movie, A Few Good Men. I want the truth. You can't handle the truth. I love it. All right, sorry. And then he goes on, where were you when I've laid the foundations of the world, if you have understanding? Now, I love this. What God does is he starts asking all these questions to Job about his creations. He's not dodging. It sounds like, well, God's just dodging. He doesn't really have an answer. Yeah, he does. Here's his point. I'll just drop it at this. He asks all these questions. Look at this. Consider this. Have you thought of this? Look at the wisdom and the knowledge and the understanding behind all the creations. And he created it just amazingly fantastic, like really good. And then he says, if you could tell me what I was doing in all this, and you know the mind behind that, then I'll go ahead and tell you why, in my mind, why I allow you to go through this. Quit trying me. Quit testing me. Quit doubting me. How much more valuable is this human? This is God's man. And yet his creations, all these animals and the earth and the way he created it, the sky and all that. Behold the depth of the intelligence of God. So if God's allowing that, he must have a really, really good reason, really good purposes to it. And he wants Job to trust him. Well, you say, well, that's a pretty cold way of having him do it. Well, then you're still doubting his wisdom. If he decided not to tell him the reasons, if he decided not to do it, if he decided to allow it, then your mind tries. You have the feeling of matching God's mind or being superior to him and what he thinks and what he's doing in this earth. Why is he allowing everything? You think you can outwit God, and you know? Well, say, then why does he say it? Well, actually, he does say it. And that's what we're going to get into in more. The Bible has a lot of these answers. Why you personally? Why did you go through it? Well, maybe you could go to God and wait on him and find out why. And he might really begin telling you. And he will. And if he doesn't, like he didn't tell Job, then he has reasons that he wants you to not know. And his wisdom is telling him not to tell you the reasons. Why is that? I don't know. Is that a cop-out? Like just forget it? Well, I think there's reasons for everything that God does. I think I know what the reasons for Job, and I think he found out too. And in Job 42, he says, well, this is one thing about him, that he got it. Job got it. And after all his loss, he gained at the end. I mean, I love James. In James chapter 5, it says, take the prophets who have spoken in the name of the Lord. And he says, hey, here's an example of Job. We know the sufferings of Job and his patience. Well, patience. He learns a lot of endurance and all that. God's working in his character and all that. But this is what I like. In Job, in Job 42, it says, Job, his response to God's rebuke of him with all these questions about it, he said, well, my ears have heard of you, but now mine eyes have seen you, and I repent. He repented. He humbled himself before God, and he had a deeper relationship with God after that. In my opinion, could be wrong, if you took Job out of the grave, he entered his body, and his body came to life, and I had an interview with him, I would say, Job, was this worth it to you that he went through it? I think he'd say, absolutely. Well, what about the loss? Sure, I had loss. The pain was horrendous. It was excruciating, and his loss of his kids. He loved his kids. He prayed for them all the time. He said, if he prayed for them all the time, why didn't God answer the prayers? Uh, People have free will, and his kids didn't seem to be doing the right thing. So did God judge him? Maybe. He had them destroyed. He allowed Satan to take that does natural disaster and destroy the house that they were in, and sort of like a tornado probably that took them out. I don't know. God multitasks. God has reasons for everything. So I'm talking a lot. I'll just stop here. But my second point is related to the first, and that is God willed it because man willed it in his free will. God gave us dominion. God gave us life. God gave us choices, and our choices have consequences. And then the sins of the generations come down. It says in Exodus 20, the sins passed down, and the parents who have hurt their kids, and child abuse and everything else. He's just stepped back some and let man run it, and it's a big. You're not gonna like this if you don't like God, but it's a cosmic, not experiment. God's not putting us in a chemistry lab, but he's allowing people and angels and everyone and us to see what it's like not letting God rule, like who we really are and what we're really like. And he really did kind of give it to us to live. Don't blame God. All right, thanks. The next one is going to be a really good one. Please watch that one. Number 3 is really powerful. All right, God bless you.